This is a slightly more technical video, but it answers a question which two different users of Adaptable raised, so perhaps there's other people there who are also interested. And essentially the question is it possible to create a calculated column at design time in such a way that it can have AG-grid characteristics? What we mean by that is typically when you create a calculated column, AG-grid knows nothing about it. You either define it at design time in predefined config or at runtime through the UI. And then when that calculated column is seen by Adaptable, it will create the underlying AG-grid column definition and populate it as required. But what that means is occasionally you can't therefore take advantage of certain AG-grid characteristics. For instance, here we have two calculated columns, GitHub average by language and GitHub average by license. So they are both aggregated scalars calculated columns. But we can see that first of all, they have a tooltip. So when we hover, we can see a tooltip and we can see a tooltip. And we can also see that both of these columns, as well as having tooltips for the headers, are inside a column group. And a tooltip is an AG-grid thing, and column groups are AG-grid constructs. You don't create column groups in Adaptable, but Adaptable knows about them and uses them. So essentially these columns therefore have to be known to AG-grid within grid options. So how do we do that? So let's look at the code. And the first thing we should do is let's look at the column definitions for these two columns, GitHub average by language. And we can see that here we've created the AG-grid column group, GitHub averages, that's this one here. And then we've provided two standard AG-grid column definitions. It's got a column ID, and we've provided for both the header tooltip and the value tooltip that you've seen. And you can also see that in the type, we've provided two things. You can have as many types as you want. They don't just need to be adaptable, but there's two adaptable types that they've both been given. One is AB special column. That tells Adaptable this is a special column, and then it knows that it needs to do something with it. In this case, to look up and create a calculated column. And the second is just that it's a normal number column, meaning I can now create numbers and treat it and filter it and group it and pivot on it as in any other number column. So here you can see we've defined them in AG-grid and we've given it this type. And then in Adaptable options, there's actually very, very little different. We create the calculated columns exactly as normal. So here's the two column definitions. As we saw, they're both aggregated scalars. This one here is an average of this column grouped by this column. And then this is an average of the same column grouped by a different column. And the only other thing to bear in mind is that this column ID here, stars AVG by language and stars AVG by license, has to match up with these two here. And that's all there is to it. So essentially in column defs, if you know you want to use a calculated column to do stuff with it, you just define it normally, pass in AB special column, and then Adaptable, you can then create your calculated columns as you would normally. I hope that all makes sense. As always, thank you for watching. And if you have any questions or would like a trial license or a personalized demo, please get in touch.